इसी आर्यन द्रविडियन डिवाइड पर की है वो आजकल फिर से एक्टिव हो गए। आर्यन द्रविडियन जो थ्योरी है, पहले तो ये बताएं ये थ्योरी क्या है।
जो एनाटोलिया और टर्की का जो आज ज्योग्राफिकल रीजन है वो ओरिजिनली ग्रीक रीजन था। नॉट इवन वन एविडेंस ऑफ माइग्रेशन ऑफ अ फॉरेन कल्चर इनटू इंडिया एनी टाइम।
Show me an evidence of any nomads producing a language of this sophistication.
Exactly. They also have linguistic arguments कि भाई संस्कृत and old Persian are sister languages. The beginning of the 21st century ऐसा कहते थे कि सरस्वती नदी एक मिथ है। It is now identified as the Saraswati. Incontrovertible evidence. जो roots है Western civilization का, it is Greece, Mesopotamia and Egypt.
तो ये जो जेनेटिक्स वाला जो मामला है ये कब शुरू हुआ, क्यों शुरू हुआ, अब क्या चल रहा है, थोड़ा सा ऐसे बताइए जिससे कि आम हमारे जो ऑडियंस है उसको भी समझ में आ जाए।
जी।
My honor to be here and thank you very much. Let me have the pleasure of shaking you by the hand as a Brit would say.
नमस्ते, आप सभी का स्वागत है इस टीजेडी पॉडकास्ट में। आजकल आप देख रहे हैं कि आर्यन और द्रविडियन वाला जो मामला है वो एक बार फिर से गरमाया हुआ है और लोग सनातन धर्म के ऊपर भी आक्षेप लगा रहे हैं इसी के बहाने से। तो हमारे पास इस आर्यन इन्वेजन थ्योरी जो कि इसके मूल में है उसके एक्सपर्ट हैं और आप जानते हैं कौन है, वो हैं अभिजीत चावड़ा जी। जी हाँ, आपके जाने पहचाने अभिजीत चावड़ा जी आज हमारे साथ हैं। आपका स्वागत है अभिजीत चावड़ा जी जयपुर डायलॉग्स के स्टूडियो।
धन्यवाद सर, थैंक यू सो मच।
तो आप देख रहे हैं कि हमारे कुछ जो राजनेता हैं जिन्होंने अपनी पूरी पॉलिटिक्स, पूरी राजनीति जो है वो इसी आर्यन द्रविडियन डिवाइड पर की है, वो आजकल फिर से एक्टिव हो गए
जी।
और वो बताना चाह रहे हैं कि साहब कि वो कुछ अलग है और हमारे जो उत्तर भारत में वो कुछ आर्य अलग हैं। जो वो पुरानी कहानी बताई जाती है कि 1500 BC के आसपास जो आर्यंस थे वो आए थे और उन्होंने द्रविडियंस को भगा दिया था और वो जो है वो बेचारे बड़े परेशान हो गए, साउथ इंडिया में चले गए।
जी।
ये अलग बात है कि ब्राह्मण उनमें भी थे और ब्राह्मण दूसरों में भी थे। तो ये जो आर्यन द्रविडियन जो थ्योरी है, जो पहले तो ये बताएं ये थ्योरी क्या है।
अब ये थियरी ये है कि अप्रोक्सीमेटली ये थियरी ऐसा कहता है कि कुछ 1500 BC के आसपास, पहली बात तो ये है कि ये थियरी कहता है कि जो सो कॉल्ड द्रविडियन लोग हैं,
पहली बात तो ये थ्योरी नहीं है,
ये हाइपोथेसिस है, ये एक
ये हाइपोथेसिस है जो कभी प्रूव नहीं की गई।
कोई proof
इसको प्रूव करने के लिए 2 करोड़ 10 लाख का इनाम जयपुर डायलॉग्स ने अनाउंस किया था। उस चीज़ को 5 साल हो गए लेकिन आज तक कोई इस थ्योरी को प्रूव करने आया नहीं।
हाँ।
ये एक और समस्या है।
तो थियरी ये कहता है कि जो भारत के ओरिजिनल नागरिक है, इनहेबिटेंट्स है, वो सो कॉल्ड द्रविडियंस थे और ये हर जगह भारत में रहते, पूरे सब कॉन्टिनेंट में। ये हमारे ओरिजिनल भारत के ओरिजिनल निवासी थे और कुछ 1500 BC के आसपास बाहर से, यूरोप से और सेंट्रल एशिया से गोरी चमड़ी वाले आर्य आए। उन्होंने भारत पर आक्रमण किया, उन्होंने इन द्रविडियंस को हरा दिया और उनको फिर साउथ में, भारत के दक्षिणी हिस्से में फोर्सिबली वहाँ भेज दिया उनको। और फिर ये अपनी भाषा संस्कृत को सबके ऊपर थोप दी और उनका जो बहुत ही इविल रिलीजन है हिंदुइज्म विथ कास्ट सिस्टम, ये सब पे थोप दिया और तब से भारत इस परिस्थिति में है। तो ओवरऑल उनका इस थियरी का ये जेस्ट है और ऐसा लगता है कि ये रेशियल थियरी है, लेकिन एक्चुअली थियरी का जो मेन क्रक्स ये है कि संस्कृत इज अ फॉरेन लैंग्वेज टू इंडिया एंड हिंदुइज्म इज अ फॉरेन रिलीजन टू इंडिया। ये सब बाहर से आए हैं, तो आपने आपकी भाषा और आपका रिलीजन इनके ऊपर थोपा, तो आप क्यों नहीं कोई और आपके ऊपर फॉरेन रिलीजियस थोपे? इट इज जस्टिफाइड, इट इज कंप्लीटली जस्टिफाइड बिकॉज यू डिड द सेम थिंग। तो एसेंशियली मेन क्रक्स आर्यन इन्वेजन थियरी का ये है। 1500 BC के आसपास बाहर से आर्य आए और आज के जो नॉर्थ इंडियंस और वेस्ट इंडियंस है ये आर्य के डिसेंडेंट्स है, मतलब दे आर इविल, दे आर द रिजल्ट ऑफ इन्वेजन और जो साउथ के जो लोग हैं स्पेशली तमिल एक्सेट्रा, ये ओरिजिनल इनहैबिटेंट्स हैं इंडिया के। तो ये थ्योरी क्या करती है, इट डिवाइड्स भारत को डिवाइड करती है दो हिस्सों में, नॉर्दर्न इंडिया एंड सदर्न इंडिया, और ये एक सेपरेटिज्म वाला फीलिंग क्रिएट करती है और ऑपरेशन वाला फीलिंग क्रिएट करती है अमंग पीपल ऑफ सदर्न इंडिया। और दूसरा उसमें कास्ट का भी एंगल ले लोग लाते हैं कि हायर कास्ट जो लोग हैं वो आर्यंस हैं, और सो कॉल्ड लोअर कास्ट वाले जो लोग हैं वो द्रविडियंस हैं, और उनको हज़ारों वर्षों से ऑपरेस किया है गोरों ने, आर्य लोगों ने। और अब हमें सोशल जस्टिस की ज़रूरत है, एंड द हिंद सनातन धर्म हैज़ टू बी डिस्ट्रॉयड, द ब्राह्मण्स आर इविल और संस्कृत इज इविल, एंड ऑल नॉर्थ इंडियन लैंग्वेजेस आर फॉरेन लैंग्वेजेस। तो ये बात है। सो इससे क्या होता है कि भारत में डिविजन्स खड़े होते हैं। ये थियरी कुछ 19th सेंचुरी के मिडिल में शुरू हुई थी। अब मैक्स मिलर का ओरिजिनल ये थॉट था, और उसका एक भी एविडेंस नहीं है, लेकिन इट इज स्टिल द मोस्ट डोमिनेंट थियरी। आपके हर कॉलेज में, हर टेक्स्ट बुक में, स्कूल में ये थियरी पढ़ाई जाती है, आइदर ओवर्टली और कवर्टली, लेकिन ये चलता आ रहा है। और आज आई मीन इफ यू लुक एट गवर्नमेंट ऑल्सो, बहुत सारे गवर्नमेंट वेबसाइट्स में ये आर्यन द्रविडियन की बात होती है, जुडिशरी भी बात करती है आर्यन द्रविडियंस की, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ टूरिज्म एंड कल्चर अंटिल रिसेंटली इसे बात कर रही थी आर्यंस एंड द्रविडियंस एंड ऑल दैट, आर्यन कल्चर एंड द्रविडियन कल्चर। तो ये बहुत डीप रूटेड है इंडिया में, इंडियन कॉन्शियसनेस में, और मोस्ट जो हमारे जो लोग हैं उनको पता भी नहीं है कि दिस इज ऑल लाइज, देयर इज नो प्रूफ फॉर इट, लेकिन हमारे टेक्स्ट बुक्स में ये पढ़ा जाता है, हमारे टीचर्स, हमारे प्रोफेसर्स ये सब मानते हैं, हमें पढ़ाते हैं। अगर आप IAS में जाएंगे तो आपको ये पढ़ाया जाएगा, आपको ये सब अब्जॉर्ब करना पड़ेगा, सीखना पड़ेगा, और आपको एग्जाम में वो सब लिखना पड़ेगा। तो ये सिचुएशन है आज। देयर इज एब्सोल्युटली नो प्रूफ, नो एविडेंस ऑफ एनी इन्वेजन, एनी माइग्रेशन, नथिंग। तो पहले उन्होंने कहा था कि इन्वेजन हुआ था, आर्यन इन्वेजन, ठीक है भाई, आर्यन इन्वेजन हुआ था, तो हमें दिखाइए एविडेंस का है इन्वेजन का, आर्कियोलॉजिकल एविडेंस। तो भाई आपको लोग 200-150 साल से ढूंढ रहे हैं, आर्कियोलॉजिस्ट्स, एविडेंस का फॉर इन्वेजन। आज तक एक भी एविडेंस नहीं मिला है कहीं पर भी। तो फिर क्या हुआ कि लेट 20th सेंचुरी में हमारे जो महान हिस्टोरियंस हैं, एमिनेंट हिस्टोरियंस, उन्होंने इस थियरी को थोड़ा सा रिवाइज किया, अमेंड किया, और वो कहते हैं कि वी हैव मॉडर्नाइज्ड द थियरी, वी हैव न्यू एविडेंस एंड ऑल, कि भाई इन्वेजन नहीं था, ये माइग्रेशन था। ठीक है, माइग्रेशन था, तो हमें माइग्रेशन का एविडेंस दिखाइए आर्कियोलॉजिकल रिकॉर्ड में। जब कोई किसी जगह पर माइग्रेशन होता है तो आपको आर्कियोलॉजिकल रिकॉर्ड में उसका एविडेंस मिलेगा। कल्चरल चेंजेस, चेंजेस इन लाइफस्टाइल, चेंजेस इन आर्किटेक्चर, चेंजेस इन रिलीजियस इमेजरी, आइकोनोग्राफी कहाँ है। फॉर एग्जाम्पल एक एग्जाम्पल है टर्की। अभी तुर्क जो लोग हैं वो सेंट्रल एशिया से आए थे। जो एनाटोलिया और टर्की का जो आज जोग्राफिकल रीजन है वो ओरिजिनली ग्रीक रीजन था। और अगर आप आर्कियोलॉजिकल रिकॉर्ड देखेंगे तो आपको अब्रप्ट चेंज दिखेगा इन द आर्कियोलॉजिकल रिकॉर्ड, कि अचानक से कुछ नया कल्चर आ गया है यहाँ पे। सो इट हैपन्स विद इन्वेजन्स, इट हैपन्स विद माइग्रेशन ऑल्सो। तो भारत में आपको कहीं पर भी माइग्रेशन का भी एविडेंस नहीं मिलेगा, नॉट इवन वन एविडेंस ऑफ माइग्रेशन ऑफ अ फॉरेन कल्चर इनटू इंडिया सम एनी टाइम अराउंड 1500 BC और व्हाटएवर। तो आर्यन माइग्रेशन का भी कोई एविडेंस नहीं है, ना तो कोई आर्कियोलॉजिकल एविडेंस है, ना तो कोई किसी और प्रकार का एविडेंस है। अगर आप तमिल संगम लिटरेचर पढ़ेंगे तो उसमें भाई वेदों की बात होती है, उसमें ब्राह्मणों की बात होती है, उसमें पूरे ये भारतवर्ष का जो ज्योग्राफी है अप टू द हिमालयाज और उसके नॉर्थ का भी हिस्सा, उसकी बात होती है। उसमें रामायण और महाभारत की बात होती है। तो भाई संगम लिटरेचर में ये, और संगम लिटरेचर बहुत पुराना है, इट इज thousands of years old, मच बिफोर द आर्यन इन्वेजन। और किसी भी तमिल लिटरेचर में आपको कहीं पर भी किसी इन्वेजन की बात नहीं मालूम नहीं है कि there is no record of any foreign invasion, there is no record of anything.
Anywhere actually,
Anywhere.
not even in any Sanskrit inscription,
Not even in Sanskrit.
not in Sanskrit literature,
हाँ,
nor is there any inscription,
नहीं,
nor is there any epigraphical evidence, nor any numismatic evidence, nothing.
नथिंग। सो आपको इन्वेजन का कोई एविडेंस नहीं मिलता है, आपको माइग्रेशन का कोई एविडेंस नहीं मिलता है, आर्यन माइग्रेशन का, ना ही आर्कियोलॉजिकल रिकॉर्ड में, ना ही तमिल संगम लिटरेचर में, कहीं पर भी एविडेंस नहीं है। तो अब ये लोग क्या कर रहे हैं कि दे आर नाउ ब्रिंगिंग जेनेटिक्स इनटू दिस, जेनेटिक्स, कि भाई हम से जेनेटिक्स ऐसा साइंस है कि बहुत कम लोग समझ पाते हैं, क्योंकि इट्स अ साइंस एंड मोस्ट पीपल डोंट अंडरस्टैंड साइंस, और ये बहुत ही कॉम्प्लेक्स टॉपिक है। तो अब ये लोग जेनेटिक्स को लाए हैं बीच में।
इसके पहले कि आप जेनेटिक्स पे जाएं,
हाँ,
थोड़ा सा लिटरेचर और आर्कियोलॉजी डिस्कस कर लेते हैं।
जरूर जरूर।
जेनेटिक्स इज अ वेरी हेवी सब्जेक्ट,
हाँ,
तो उस पर हम फिर बाद में चलते हैं। पहले
जी जी।
तो जैसे लिटरेचर की बात है तो डॉक्टर डेविड फ्रॉली ने भी इसको रिफ्यूट किया है फ्रॉम द पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू ऑफ लिटरेचर।
हाँ
और उनका आर्ग्यूमेंट बड़ा सिंपल है और बहुत ही सिंपल आर्ग्यूमेंट। वो कहते हैं कि भाई आप ये कहते हैं कि ये लोग जो है ये स्टेप्स से आए, दीज पीपल माइग्रेटेड फ्रॉम द स्टेप्स फ्रॉम सेंट्रल एशिया, फ्रॉम सेंट्रल एशियन रीजन। Is there any evidence of that literature there, or they wiped it clean first and then they migrated?
एग्जैक्टली। और अब मुझे बताइए, आप दुनिया में बहुत सारे नोमैडिक कल्चर्स हैं, ठीक है, इस जितने भी नोमैडिक कल्चर्स हैं, हाउ मेनी ऑफ देम हैव प्रोड्यूस्ड कॉपियस्ट एडवांस्ड लिटरेचर इन
This is
सिविलाइजेशन?
also Dr. David Frawley's argument.
हाँ।
One of the arguments, another argument, the second leg of this argument is this,
हाँ।
जो आप बोल रहे हैं कि भाई show me an evidence of any nomads producing a language of this sophistication.
Exactly. Incredibly sophisticated language. Incredibly rich
It
language.
is even today the most sophisticated.
Even today, absolutely.
Even today.
Yeah. You simply can't develop a language of this richness, of this depth, wandering around. You simply can't. You have to settle it.
Don't have a grammar like this.
You don't have a grammar like this. Exactly.
पर जो उसके जो वेदांग हैं, जो आपके 6 वेदांग जिनको बोलते हैं, इसमें आपके क्या शिक्षा, व्याकरण, निरुक्त, छंद, कल्प और एक और है, तो वो जो 6 वेदांग हैं उसके आधार पे, ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ दैट, स्पेशली द रूट साइंस, निरुक्त is the root science. I think even today in the etymology of most languages, they don't have that kind of a root science. You take one root and you can produce a number of words out of them.
It's almost mathematical in nature.
Mathematical in nature. Aphorisms. They have the aphorisms and they have algorithms. ये कहाँ है? ये एफोरिज्म, एल्गोरिथम किसी लैंग्वेज में ये बता सकते हैं क्या? एल्गोरिथम्स इन, आई थिंक इट्स ओनली रीसेंट विंटेज, मैथमेटिकल एल्गोरिथम्स।
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल।
द फर्स्ट मैथमेटिकल एल्गोरिथम्स हैव कम आउट ऑफ दिस कल्चर।
यस।
तो ये नोमैड्स के लाने की क्या संभावना है?
बिल्कुल नहीं। और दे ऑल्सो हैव लिंग्विस्टिक आर्ग्यूमेंट्स कि भाई संस्कृत एंड ओल्ड पर्शियन आर सिस्टर लैंग्वेजेस। भाई आपने देखा है संस्कृत का कम्प्लेक्सिटी और फिर आप ओल्ड पर्शियन का कम्प्लेक्सिटी देखिए, देयर इज नो कंपैरिजन। तो एक आर्ग्यूमेंट ये है कि जो आर्यन से वो सेंट्रल एशिया से आए, एक ब्रांच ईरान चला गया पर्शिया में और दूसरा ब्रांच भारत में आ गया, एंड दैट्स व्हाई वी हैव 2 लैंग्वेजेस व्हिच आर वेरी सिमिलर। लेकिन अगर आप, और मैं आपको ये कहूँगा कि लिंग्विस्टिक्स इज नॉट अ साइंस। लिंग्विस्टिक्स इज अ ग्रुप ऑफ पीपल जो साथ में बैठते हैं, दे कम टू अ कंसेंसस based on whatever narratives they believe in, and then they create rules of linguistics. उन्होंने एक Proto-Indo-European language बनाई है, which is mainly influenced by Western languages, not by Sanskrit. Okay, despite the fact that Sanskrit is the oldest language in the world that we know of. तो ये कहते हैं कि भाई Sanskrit is not the oldest language. It is 1500 BC or something. Based on what assumptions are you making this claim? कुछ भी नहीं. They just assume it कि 1500 BC के आसपास की बात है. So ये कहते हैं कि Persians and Indians are 2 branches of the invading Aryans. Actually अगर आप ओल्ड पर्शियन भाषा को देखेंगे, it is an अपभ्रंश language of Sanskrit. ये अपभ्रंश भाषा है संस्कृत. It is a daughter language of Sanskrit.
Exactly.
But सारे के सारे linguists कहेंगे कि that is not true. It is a sister language. और ये जो common lay public है वो कहेगी भाई all the linguists are saying this and how can you say such a thing? You must be crazy. तो ये बात है. So,
but even linguistically, somebody like Shrikant Talagiri,
well, he is one guy fighting a lone battle. But then whatever he is saying is absolutely logical, and he is producing proofs phenomenally. Yes. They tried to co-opt him, didn't work. Now they hate him.
It didn't work. Then what they are doing, they are not able to disprove his arguments.
Yeah.
So what they are doing right now is to just ignore him.
Just ignore, marginalize. Don't give it any currency. Don't bring it out to the open. Let him talk in a corner and we'll not talk about it. We'll completely ignore it. So what needs to happen is we need to re-examine linguistics a priori, especially Indian linguistics. There is this, इन्होंने 2 अलग language families बना के रखी है linguistics में, Aryan languages and Dravidian languages, Indo-Aryan and Dravidian. what is the basis for this? There is more in common between the Indo-Aryan languages, so-called, and the so-called Dravidian languages than what the Indo-Aryan languages have in common with, let's say, German or Slovakian or whatever. There is way more in common between the so-called two Indian language families. So ये सब जो linguistic classification जो बना के रखा है, it has all been done by foreigners. Foreigners have no business deciding what happens here and how to interpret our linguistic heritage. So what needs to happen, क्या होना चाहिए, कि we need to re-examine Indian linguistics a priori with Indian linguists, not eminent linguists or historians, but fresh people who are just out of college or university. Start from there, examine it mathematically, examine it scientifically, examine it from the perspective of logic, not from the perspective of consensus that has already been achieved by foreigners. अगर हम ठीक से
Reject Indology in a way.
reject Indology, yeah, exactly. We need to start our own, schools of linguistics and all that. It needs to happen. I mean, the father of linguistics was Acharya Panini. So why can't we redo this properly? Tamil grammar and the Tamil language is also incredibly rich. Very interesting linguistics and all. Of course, I'm no expert in that. But we need to do this a priority. We need to ignore everything the West has produced thus far. We need to have our own institutes of linguistics. It won't cost a lot to create at least one institute of linguistics and have fresh, bright young people who look into all of this. Let's say a core group of 10 or 20 people who start fresh. It can be done. So linguistics should be a science, but it's not a science. It is a joke right now, linguistics. Yeah. So they have created two branches of Indian languages, Aryan and Dravidian, and that's the whole problem. And like I said, they said that Old Persian is a sister language of Sanskrit. It's not, it's a daughter language of Sanskrit, and so on. So ये एक बात है.
Even the present classical Sanskrit is a daughter language of Vedic Sanskrit.
Of course, yes.
And if you look at even the southern languages, then you will find that the loan words
Copious.
from Sanskrit, even Tamil, which they treat as very
What does
pure,
Sangam mean?
about 40-50% loan words, whereas Malayalam and
70.
Telugu have 90%.
Yeah.
Kannada has about 80%.
Yes, they are more Sanskritized than any Indian, Northern Indian language right now. Hindi is more Urduized, Arabized, Persianized.
Yes,
Yeah.
100% agree with you. And plus in Hindi, they have this problem of pronunciation, the schwa deletion that happens in Hindi.
Yes.
Like Bharat, they'll swallow the A. So Bharat becomes, if Sanskrit, if you translate the Bharat the way it is written, Bharat, so in Sanskrit you will have to put a halant, that is half T. So in Hindi, that is a unique problem that makes it very difficult for these South Indians to
understand. Yes.
And that's what they keep complaining. What do these people do? They swallow their A's.
It's a genuine complaint. It's a
genuine complaint.
Yeah.
And even I complain because I know Sanskrit. So I find these people writing Hindi, they are not doing justice even to Sanskrit because the origin is Sanskrit.
Yeah.
So that is the linguistic part of it. But you think right now there is a lot of interest among people, especially the present government has been projecting the Indian culture, the ancient Indian culture everywhere. If you look at G20, which is going on.
Yes.
And a lot of other aspects of Indian culture have been promoted. And then comes one idiot and says that, okay, Sanatan Dharma is to be eradicated. That only fuels the reaction and that only makes people wanting to understand this even deeper, don't you think?
Definitely, yes. So this entire animosity or hatred towards our culture, our religion, Sanatan Dharma, it all stems out of the Aryan-Dravidian divide, which was created out of the Aryan invasion theory. Okay, so lots of people in the South, they truly believe, I don't blame them for believing this, they believe that they have been oppressed for 3,500 years, that these foreign Aryans have taken over the country, and they've imposed the evil religion upon us. So people, if you're taught this from childhood, you're going to believe it, and you're going to have this sense of having been oppressed and sense of injustice. So that is the dominant narrative apparently in many parts of southern India, and that's why politicians are able to blatantly, openly make such statements that Sanatana Dharma should be eradicated, and they associated it with inequality and all that, and there is no response that we have from our scholars or anybody. So that's what happens. So I had written about this in 2017, that the Aryan invasion theory is the root cause of all the separatism that you see, soft separatism, hard separatism that you see in various parts of India, and the sense of oppression and injustice that people have. And it also fuels conversions out of Hinduism. It gives these missionaries and all these converters the justification to say that Hinduism is evil and it's an oppressive, rapacious, inegalitarian, misogynistic, patriarchal, oppressive, invasive, all that.
All the adjectives that you
everything
can
I think of. Yeah.
brutal.
Yeah. So all of that is justified by the Aryan invasion theory because that is taken as the gospel truths today. And that is the problem.
And we know that gospels are all non-falsifiable.
Non-falsifiable, yes.
And non-falsifiable is scientifically,
No basis in science.
it's a dogma.
It's a dogma, yes. You just have to believe it, swallow it whole. No questioning allowed. No questioning allowed.
So Aryan invasion theory, can we call it a dogma?
It is a dogma because, look, actually it can be falsified. It's a theory. It's a proper theory. It's not exactly a dogma. But the way it is taken is in a very dogmatic fashion.
The purveyors of the Aryan invasion theory, they do not allow any falsification.
They don't allow any questioning.
They do not allow any questioning.
Yes.
हम कर सकते हैं और हम करते भी हैं.
हाँ.
हमने तो आप जानते हैं, आपके सामने ही अवार्ड अनाउंस हुआ था 2 लाख का.
Yes.
तो वो सब हमने कर रखा है.
हाँ.
लेकिन जो उसके डिफेंडर्स हैं, तरह तरह के लोग आ जाएंगे जिनका कोई बैकग्राउंड नहीं, साइड बैकग्राउंड नहीं है. टॉनी जोसेफ आ जाएगा उठ के. ऐसे एंशिएंट इंडियंस.
So क्या हुआ था कि for the longest time हमारा जो academic system
आपका बड़ा झगड़ा हुआ था टॉनी जोसेफ से.
Yeah, I mean, मैंने उनका जो बुक है उसका एक रिव्यू आर्टिकल लिखा था. And I had kind of totally shown that everything, the major claims that he makes are groundless, they're baseless and they're false. तो फिर ट्विटर पे कुछ हुआ तो वो चला थोड़ा आर्ग्यूमेंट टाइप का. He is like very active on Twitter and he has a whole troll army behind him.
No, he blocked me.
He blocked you? अच्छा. So मैंने उन्हें कहा था टोनी जोसेफ जी को कि भाई उस समय I was not doing a podcast or anything. I said come on Kushal Mehra's podcast. At that time only Kushal Mehra was doing podcast. I said let's do a podcast. Come on, आमने सामने. No name calling, no all that. Let's have a civilized discussion. And since you have written a book, you must be really well read about this. You must be knowledgeable. So come and defeat me. Prove me wrong. So he ran away. So I have been issuing this request to him often. I recently requested him to come on my podcast. क्या आ जाइए, बात करते हैं. But he always ignores that. So I don't know why he ignores that. I mean, it's a great opportunity for him to prove me wrong.
All of them do. वो जो क्लब है इनका, जो लेफ्टिस्ट क्लब है, वो that debates only among themselves.
Among themselves.
मैंने रोमिला थापर को बुलाया था.
अच्छा.
नहीं
आएगी.
मैंने इरफान हबीब को लिखा था, ईमेल का रिप्लाई नहीं दिया. मैंने रामचंद्र गुहा को लिखा था, ईमेल का रिप्लाई नहीं दिया. अभी मैंने क्रिस्टोफर जाफरो को लिखा.
अच्छा.
भाई आपका जो ये हिंदुत्व वाला जो नैरेटिव है, तो कम ऑन माय virtual dialogue. Let's have a dialogue. I'll ask you a few questions. No reply.
No reply.
And these are the doyens of leftism in the world. Christoph Jeffrelaw, who styles himself as an expert on Hindutva.
अच्छा.
वो हिंदुत्व के सबसे बड़े स्कॉलर हैं.
अच्छा.
और राहुल गांधी के भी गुरु है, वो बताया जाता है. उनको भी बहुत कुछ मेंटरिंग करते हैं उनकी. तो ये सब जो आप देख रहे हैं ना, वो इन्हीं सारे नैरेटिव से निकल के आ रहा है. और वो ऑड्रे टुस्के के भी गुरु हैं.
अच्छा, उनके भी गुरु हैं.
हाँ, बड़े बड़े लोगों के गुरु हैं. उनको मैंने लिखा था. तो भाई आप लोग अगर सुन रहे हो तो क्रिस्टोफ जेफरलॉ को भाई एक बार फिर से कह दीजिए, उनके डीएम पे जाके कह दीजिए या उनको टैग करके कह दीजिए कि यहाँ आपको बुलाया जा रहा है, आपका ज्ञान हम सब ग्रहण करना चाहते हैं. वी ऑल वांट टू लर्न फ्रॉम यू.
ऑफ कोर्स.
व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस बिटवीन हिंदुइज्म एंड हिंदुत्व, बिकॉज he claims that he has learnt the Hindi language. I know his Hindi teacher.
अच्छा.
He says that what all he's talking is all bogus. तो उस हिंदी टीचर के बेसिस पे वो कहते हैं कि चूँकि उनको हिंदी आती है, इसलिए ही इज़ एन एक्सपर्ट ऑन हिंदुइज्म एंड हिंदुत्व,
अच्छा,
दैट्स हिज क्लेम टू फेम।
आई सी।
तो ऐसे लोग जो है वो डिसाइड करते हैं हमारे लिए कि भाई क्या नैरेटिव चलना चाहिए।
They have been the gatekeepers of knowledge for so long, and they have not allowed any other narrative to be set forth. They have their own narrative. और दूसरा कुछ, फॉर एग्जाम्पल डॉक्टर बीबी लाल, उन्होंने कितने सारे बुक्स लिखे, कितना सारा रिसर्च किया, none of that was allowed to come into the mainstream, into any Indian textbook. One of the greatest, maybe the greatest archaeologists of the 20th century, Professor बीबी लाल, उनको completely marginalized किया इन लोगों ने, despite the incredible work he did, the incredible output, the quantity of work that he did. कितने सारे बुक्स उन्होंने लिखे, कितने सारे पेपर, रिसर्च पेपर्स पब्लिश किए, नथिंग वाज अलाउड टू कम इनटू इंडियन टेक्स्ट बुक्स। तो इस तरह से ये गेट कीपिंग करते हैं, एंड दैट्स हाउ दे परपेचुएट देयर फॉल्स नैरेटिव। पीपल आर डूइंग रिसर्च। आज क्या है कि वी आर एबल टू टॉक, बट लेकिन 15 साल पहले देयर वाज नो सोशल मीडिया, देयर वाज नो आउटलेट for people who had the knowledge but who could not, we were not allowed to disseminate it. So they just kept this narrative going. Now it is being questioned. It has to be questioned because it's a completely false narrative, and we can discuss it further about genetics and other things also.
क्वाइट राइट। तो अब हम बात करते हैं आर्कियोलॉजी की, क्योंकि आर्कियोलॉजिकल एक्सकवेशंस ने भी ये पूरा का पूरा जो है वो ध्वस्त किया है, क्योंकि इसके जो लेग्स हैं बेसिकली, तो एक तो ये है कि भाई ये इसका जो जोग्राफिकल ओरिजिन जो है वो सेंट्रल एशिया एंड देयर अबाउट्स। दूसरा जो है वो कहते हैं कि साहब कि ये 1500 BC के आसपास आया। अच्छा, ये 1500 BC का भी जो है ये इन्होंने इसको बाइबलिकल क्रोनोलॉजी में फिट करने के लिए किया। इसका और कोई लॉजिक नहीं है, इसका कोई प्रूफ नहीं है, इसका कोई, इन्होंने बस इट्स हाइपोथेसिस टू फिट इट इनटू द बाइबलिकल क्रोनोलॉजी। अच्छा, बाइबल में एक रेस थियरी भी है,
हैम शैम वो सब।
हाँ, हैम शैम वाली जो है, हैम शैम जाफेथ वाली जो रेस थियरी है कि वो नोआ हैड द 3 sons एंड हैम वाज कर्स्ड, और हम लोग जो है वो सब
हेमाइट्स हैं।
हेमाइट्स।
अच्छा।
और जो उसके फेवरेट थे वो फेवरेट उसके जेफेथ था। जेफेथ जो है वो ही इज़ द फोरफादर ऑफ ऑल द वाइट रेसेस। और शेम्स आर दीज पीपल इन द मिडल ईस्ट, सेमाइट्स। ये सेमाइट्स हैं, और जेफेथ जो है दे आर दी चोजन वंस कह सकते हैं आप उनको, या फेवरेट्स आप कह सकते हैं उसको। तो ये जो हम लोग जो कर्स्ट वाले हैं, तो उनको ये जो जेफेथ वाले थे वो वहाँ से आए, तो ये जो जेफेथ वाले थे उन्होंने हैम्स वालों को सबड्यू किया। वो दैट्स अनदर डिफरेंट थ्योरी, दैट इज अ रेसिस्ट थ्योरी। तो वो इसमें फोर्स फिट करते हैं वो। लेकिन इसमें प्रॉब्लम ये है कि आप इसमें से कोई भी एक भी कि भाई देयर वाज नो इन्वेजन माइग्रेशन आइदर, और यू कैन शो दैट वो जो जियोग्राफिकल रीजन है दैट डिड नॉट एग्जिस्ट, और यू कैन show that the linguistics operated here, or you can simply show the 1500 BC thing as incorrect. The theory falls flat.
Yeah.
चाहे उसको आप invasion कह लीजिए, चाहे migration कह लीजिए, tourism वाला आपकी जो theory है वो मुझे पक्का नहीं है।
पिकनिक आएगा।
दर्शकों को बता दूँ कि एक आर्यन टूरिज्म थियरी भी है, जो कि हमारे अभिजीत चावड़ा जी की थियरी है कि भाई इसका टूरिज्म थियरी बना लो, क्योंकि इन्वेजन और माइग्रेशन तो सेट हो नहीं रहा।
और फिर टूरिज्म भी नहीं होगा, फिर पिकनिक करेंगे वो।
तो अब इसमें आपको पता है कि राखी गढ़ी में 6000 साल तक का मिल गया है, 6000 years बिफोर प्रेजेंट।
जी।
6000 years बिफोर प्रेजेंट का मतलब हुआ 3500 BC।
हाँ।
और भिरन्ना में 8000 BC तक का मिल गया है,
8.5 के आसपास
8000 years का मिल गया है। तो 8
भिराना इज 9,500 years old।
9.5।
हाँ, कार्बन डेटिंग।
तो 9.5 का मतलब हुआ
लगभग 10,000।
7000 BC।
हाँ, यस।
तो 7500 BC हम जा चुके हैं, तो फिर इसमें क्या बचा? प्लस आपने बीवी लाल जी का नाम लिया। बीवी लाल जी के जो आपके उनके जो पूरा जो ये सरस्वती बेल्ट है, तो उनकी इस्टेब्लिश की हुई है। ये आपके खाली बंगा वगैरह जो है वो
हाँ।
उसी बेल्ट पे। लोथल उन्होंने निकाला और द्वारका उन्होंने एक्सकेवेट की।
द्वारका आई थिंक डॉक्टर एस आर राव ने किया था।
अच्छा, डॉक्टर एस आर राव ने किया था। श्योर, यस यस यस, द्वारका डॉक्टर एस आर राव। लेकिन बीवी लाल जी ने उसके ऊपर सबके
बहुत बहुत
बहुत अन्वेषण किया। प्लस अभी आपके सुनौली वाला महाभारत का एविडेंस आ गया है। तो इन सबको देखते हुए आप क्या कहेंगे?
देखिए, इतना सारा एविडेंस है, आर्कियोलॉजिकल एविडेंस के ये सबसे पहले ये लोग कहते हैं कि हिंदुइज्म 1500 BC के आसपास भारत में आया विद आर्यन इन्वेजन। तो भाई हमारे पास इतना सारा आर्कियोलॉजिकल एविडेंस है, राखेगढ़ी, कालीबंगान, बीरन्ना एंड सो ऑन सो फोर्थ, मोहनजोदड़ो और हड़प्पा। वहाँ पर आपको कौन सा कल्चर दिखता है, ये दिखते हैं। तो वहाँ पर आपको छोटे छोटे स्टैचुएट्स बनेंगे महिलाओं के, जिनके मांग में सिंदूर है। भाई मांग में सिंदूर कोई सेक्युलर कल्चर तो नहीं है, दिस इज हिंदुइज्म, सनातन धर्म। सो मांग में सिंदूर इज ओनली एसोसिएटेड विथ हिंदुइज्म एंड विथ नो अदर रिलीजन। और ये 6000 साल पे पुराने महिलाओं के स्टैचूज बनेंगे आपके छोटे छोटे, जिनके मांग में सिंदूर है, इन दीज वेरियस पार्ट्स ऑफ इंडिया। तो दैट डेमोन्स्ट्रेट्स क्लियरली कि हिंदुइज्म वॉज बीइंग प्रैक्टिस इन दीज पार्ट्स ऑफ इंडिया 6000 years ago। और आपको स्वस्तिक दिखेंगे हर जगह। स्वस्तिक इज अ धार्मिक सिंबल। हिंदुइज्म, बुद्धिज्म, जैनिज्म, सिखिज्म में आज ये होता है, शिंतो में भी है, एक्सेट्रा, मंगोल्स भी करते हैं। इट ऑल केम फ्रॉम इंडिया और दिस इज अगेन अ हिंदू थिंग। सो ये स्वस्तिक आपको हर जगह दिखेंगे, हर ऑलमोस्ट इन एवरी आर्कियोलॉजिकल साइट जो 5000, 6000, 7000 साल पुरानी है। तो आपको एसेंशियली एक
स्वस्तिक बेसिकली डिनोट्स द संसार चक्र, that's eternal cyclical time, and that is basically a Hindu philosophy.
It's a Hindu philosophy, yes. So essentially आपको क्या दिखेगा? You will see an unbroken cultural continuum in all these archaeological sites that dates back to almost 10,000 years before today. Same culture has persisted. कौन था? जॉन मार्शल था जो भी था, who was the ASI chief in the early 20th century. उसने जब हड़प्पा मोहनजोदड़ो को एक्सकवेट किया,
एक्सकेवेट तो राखाल दास बनर्जी ने,
हाँ, ये अंडर हिज सुपरविजन,
वो सुपरविजन तो कलकत्ता में बैठ के कर रहा था।
हाँ,
he basically I should say
he stole credit from,
stole the credit
yes,
from राखाल दास बनर्जी।
हाँ, तो उसने उस व्यक्ति ने कहा कि the culture that you see in Mohenjo-daro and Harappa is so distinctly Indian and Hindu as to be indistinguishable from the Hinduism practiced in India today. और ये हड़प्पा मोहनजोदड़ो एटलीस्ट 4-5,000 वर्ष पुराना एटलीस्ट है। सो हिंदुइज्म वॉज देयर इन इंडिया 5,000, 6,000 years ago, इनकंट्रोवर्टिबल एविडेंस है। तो कहाँ से भाई आपका आर्यन इन्वेजन हुआ? विथ हिंदू कल्चर, विथ हिंदू रिलीजन कमिंग विथ आर्यंस फ्रॉम द सेंट्रल एशियन स्टेप्स। इट टोटली डिस्ट्रॉयज द थियरी, वेदर इट्स इन्वेजन और माइग्रेशन और टूरिज्म और पिकनिक, इट टोटली डिस्ट्रॉयज दिस थियरीज। ये एक बहुत ही सिंपल आपको एविडेंस मिलेगा थ्रू ऑल दिस आर्कियोलॉजिकल साइट्स। और इट इज नोन कि अब अंटिल द बिगिनिंग ऑफ द 21st century ऐसा कहते थे कि सरस्वती नदी एक मिथ है। वेयर इज द सरस्वती? इट इज अ मिथोलॉजिकल रिवर दैट दिस स्टूपिड हिंदूज हैव इन्वेंटेड आउट ऑफ देयर इमेजिनेशन। आपको आज दिखता है। आई मीन इट इज नाउ इवन बीइंग published in the journal Nature and the most eminent and reputable scientific publications in the world. It is that dry river bed, that enormous dry river bed जो हिमालय से समुद्र तक आती है, it is now identified as the Saraswati. Incontrovertible evidence. और आपको अगर देखना है तो even if you look at the undersea topology of the region, आपको उस नदी के का जो क्या कहते हैं पैलियो चैनल दिखेगा, the mouth of the river जो डेल्टा बनता है, you can see it under water also, under the ocean. अभी तक वो है। It was a gigantic river which was fed by monsoon rains mostly. आज भी वो रिवर है थोड़ी बहुत,
और घग्गर है,
घग्गर है,
बाढ़ आती है उसमें,
बाढ़ आती है उसमें जरूर।
जो हमारा जो हनुमानगढ़ जिला है,
हाँ,
उसमें वो जाके सैंड ड्यून्स में और वहाँ जाके वो बहुत सारे वाटर बॉडीज बनाती है जिसमें फिशिंग होती है आज भी।
अच्छा,
और
अभी रिसेंटली आया था बाढ़।
एक्सेस पानी आ जाता है तो बड़ी वहाँ प्रॉब्लम हो जाती है।
हाँ, तो अभी भी उसमें बहुत जोरदार बाढ़ आती है।
हाँ,
इट वाज कॉल्ड द मदर ऑफ फ्लड्स।
पहले उसमें जो था, अब तो ये भी प्रूव हो गया ना कि पहले उसमें आपकी जो Yamuna and Satluj,
सतलज ये
they both used to feed this river.
या फिर उसका कोर्स चेंज हुआ एंड ऑल दैट सो पूरा उसका जियोलॉजिकल हिस्ट्री में पता है वी नो हाउ ओल्ड इट वाज वी नो हाउ वाइड इट वाज मैसिव रिवर बहुत बड़ी नदी थी सो इट इज नाउ नोन सरस्वती एग्जिस्टेड इट इज नॉट अ मिथ इट वाज अ रियल
और
रिवर
आपके ऋग्वेद में नदी सूक्त में उसका पूरा वर्णन है,
हाँ
और उसको क्या नदी तमे कहा गया है, यानी वन ऑफ द माइटीएस्ट रिवर,
द माइटीएस्ट यस
और ये सब तो अब तो ये प्रूव हो चुका है कि नहीं, व्हेन सतलज ड्रिफ्टेड अवे,
हाँ
क्या वहाँ पे चेंजेस हुए, टेक्टोनिक चेंजेस हुए, बिकॉज ऑफ विच फर्स्ट यमुना ब्रोक अवे, देन सतलज ब्रोक अवे.
It was most likely a tectonic event that caused the change of course. That is like 8,000-9,000 years ago की बात है. So बहुत ही पुराना हिस्ट्री है इसका. And eventually we know that around 1500 BC के आसपास ये नदी मोस्टली ड्राई आउट होगी सदर्न पार्ट में, लेकिन अभी तक नॉर्दर्न पार्ट में थोड़ी बहुत जीवित है ये नदी. और ये भी हम जानते हैं कि along the dry river bed of the Saraswati there are more than 2,000 or 3,000 unexplored archaeological sites. So सबसे ज़्यादा concentration of so-called Harappan archaeological sites are along the dry river bed of the Saraswati, not the Sindhu river. So the Saraswati was the major river in that time. और महाभारत में भी सरस्वती की बात आती है,
बिल्कुल आती
है ना?
आप सरस्वती, आप बलराम जी की जो यात्रा है महाभारत में, आपको शायद पता हो कि बलराम जो है उन्होंने महाभारत युद्ध में भाग नहीं लिया था. वैसे वो दुर्योधन के पक्ष में रहा करते थे वो, लेकिन जब उन्होंने देखा कि कृष्ण जो है वो पांडवों की तरफ से लड़ रहे हैं, लड़ क्या रहे हैं मतलब उनकी सहायता कर रहे हैं, उनके पक्ष में आ गए हैं, क्योंकि वो आपको पता होगा ना, वो अर्जुन ने जाके वहाँ पर वो कहा था कि भाई मेरे पास एक तरफ मैं अकेला रहूँगा और दूसरी तरफ मेरी 4 अक्षौणी सेना रहेगी. तो दुर्योधन अर्जुन को पहला चॉइस दिया तो उन्होंने भगवान को ले लिया. अर्जुन बड़ा खुश हुआ, वो 4 अक्षौणी सेना ले गया. तो बलराम ने कहा कि मैं न्यूट्रल रहूँगा, और वो तीर्थ यात्रा पर निकल गए. तो बलराम की जो तीर्थ यात्रा का वर्णन है महाभारत में, वो सारे के सारे तीर्थ आपको स्थल जो है वो सरस्वती के किनारे में, और वो सरस्वती नदी का पूरा वर्णन उसमें आता है महाभारत में.
हाँ
तो महाभारत का जो भारतीय परंपरा में जो उसकी जो डेटिंग है, वो यदि आप एक्सट्रीम डेटिंग्स छोड़ दें आप, यानी वैसे तो नीलेश योग 5651 BCE की बात करते हैं, लेकिन जो मैक्सिमम लोग बात करते हैं वो भी 3000, हमारा जो कली ईरा वाला जो कैलेंडर है 3102 BCE, उसके आसपास ही रहते हैं.
हाँ.
3067 में है, कोई 3100 समथिंग में है, उसके आसपास है. 3100 आप मीडियन उसका ले सकते हैं. तो इतना तो मिनिमम है, इवन इफ यू डोंट गो टू 565.
हाँ हाँ बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
तो दैट इज 5000 ईयर्स बिफोर प्रेजेंट.
हाँ महाभारत.
और बलराम जी की जो यात्रा है वो पूरी की पूरी उसके किनारे दिखाई जाती है. तो उसका लिटरेरी आपका कोराबोरेशन हो रहा है,
बिल्कुल हो रहा है.
कोराबोरेट हो रही.
हाँ तो ये बात है. सर
But the point is that the Western Indologists, they only want to drill hole. Why? Because their dogma of the biblical date of this Earth's birth in 4004 BCE has to be sustained.
So I'm sure there are many scholars today who don't want to adhere to the biblical dogma, but they still don't want India to be regarded as the oldest civilization. And there is this jealousy towards India in the West. Whether they say it or not, they are jealous. And they want to portray, I see, Western जो world है, they say it is Western civilization. ठीक है, let's assume it's a civilization. They say कि उसका जो roots है Western civilization का, it is Greece, Mesopotamia and Egypt. Okay? So they want to portray these three civilizations as older than India. To perpetuate the so-called greatness of Western civilization. So that's
But they killed off all these three.
They destroyed all three. There is no Greek civilization left. There is no Mesopotamia left. There is no Egypt left.
They Christianized everything first.
So
and later on, Islam came and gave them a proper lesson.
So they will only glorify those civilizations they have destroyed. And India has not been destroyed. India has refused to die. And that's why they hate India. There is this hatred. There is this jealousy. There is this resentment that we have refused to lie down and die. And you see this in Western academia. There is a lot of hate there. You spoke about people like Trushki, Audrey Trushki and all. And there is this Michael Witzel who once mistranslated a verse of the Nasadeh Sukta.
Yes, yes.
And he was exposed very badly. That fellow. He's a German Indologist who works in the US. तो नसादिया सूक्ता में ऑब्वियसली ये एक अथर्ववेद का एक टेक्स्ट है जो कहता है विच स्पीक्स अबाउट द माइग्रेशन ऑफ अ किंग कॉल्ड अमावसु और उसमें कहता है कि अमावसु माइग्रेटेड वेस्टवर्ड्स हिज पीपल आर द अराता द गांधारी एंड द परशु तो हम जानते हैं गांधारा लोग कौन है परशु कौन लोग है अराता कुड बी आर्मेनिया और समथिंग मोस्ट लाइकली बट वी स्टिल डोंट हैव अ कंप्लीट प्रॉपर आइडेंटिफिकेशन उसमें ये टेक्स्ट संस्कृत टेक्स्ट में लिखा है कि ही वेंट वेस्टवर्ड माइकल वित्सल ने उसका ट्रांसलेशन किया ही वेंट ईस्टवर्ड and it was a very blatant lie and it was
He was caught.
He was caught exposed and he has no way of refuting that he was deliberately mistranslating that. So these people have been caught in fabrication.
He has done it deliberately.
Yes.
Or he doesn't know Sanskrit. One of the two.
Well, either he's not an Indologist or he's a liar. But both ways he's exposed. So these people have been caught in the act. They've been caught red-handed.
Like Sheldon Pollock does.
Sheldon Pollock
Takes out all his spirituality from the text. He does what is called literal translations.
Yes. See, you will not see a non-Jewish person teaching Judaism. You will not see a non-Christian teaching Christianity. You will not see a non-Muslim teaching Islam in the US. You will see people from that faith and from that culture being the authority at teaching to students. When it comes to Hinduism, it's always non-Hindus who take up the mantle of the great scholars who are going to teach the world about this primitive religion called Hinduism. So this is something that has been going on for decades. It's high time India does something about this and takes back.
That's because there was first the colonization.
Yes.
First there were, of course, the brutal invasions. Then there was the colonizations. And after that we have had, for nearly 70 years, we have had quasi-colonization.
Quasi-colonization, yes, continuing colonization, mental colonization and academic colonization. So that's the kind of disrespect with which Hinduism is treated in academia in the West. And it's time that we start our own foundations and our own institutes of Indian studies, of Hindu studies. I think some steps have been taken to some extent. UGC now allows universities to offer these courses about Hindu studies, master's degrees and all that. But we need to have institutes of this, not just courses here and there, which can still be distorted possibly. So these things need to happen. But yeah, the Western Indologists have been distorting our texts. They have been fabricating lies about migrations and all. जहाँ पे clearly दिख रहा है कि भाई West में migration हुआ था, they're saying East में migration हुआ था. So they know what the truth is. The truth is that India was this big, huge population center. The Saraswati Sindhu era, if you look at the geographical extent, it is larger than Egypt and Mesopotamia put together. उससे भी बड़ा है. And the population was the highest at that time in India, at least 5 million individuals, which was bigger than anybody else. So India was the place from which you had migrations outside of India. It is clearly proven that 5,000 years before today, there was a migration of Indians into Australia. But Australia कहाँ पे है? समुद्र के बीच में है. Indians reached there. And today, if you look at Australian Aboriginal people, if you analyze the genetics, about 10% of their genetics comes from India. Indian genetics. Not North Indian or South Indian, just Indian, because it's the same. And at that time, you have the influx of this new species in Australia, the Indian dog, dingo. जिसका आज descendant है, the Australian wild dog called dingo. And you have the advent of new technology also in Australia at that time. At the same time, 5,000 years before today, you have the sudden appearance of Indian cattle in the Fertile Crescent. On one hand, you have Indians reaching Australia 5,000 years ago. On the other hand, you have Indians reaching the Middle East 5,000 years ago. Looks like those
Hittites and Mitanni.
Hittites and Mitanni.
Civilization. You have the evidence of rice going out of India.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the evidence of the bull.
Bull, Indian Zebu cattle. And they are interbreeding with local cattle over there. So, see, bulls and cows, cat and don't tell each other, chalo aaj jate hain migration ke liye. They will go with humans.
They go with you.
They're domesticated species. And today you have Indian Zebu cattle and their descendants all across Europe, across the Middle East, also all across Africa. Around 2000 BC, you have the advent of Indian cattle in Egypt. आज से 4000 साल पहले. So all of this is an indication that around 5,000
mice?
years, mice also, and all that. So around 5,000 years before today, somehow there was a big outpouring of migrations out of India, all directions, into Australia, into the Middle East, maybe westwards into Europe also, maybe
Southeast Asia.
Southeast Asia. Also, you will see Cambodia, all that, which has clear Indian DNA. Indonesians are anyway half Indians. Indonesia hai bhai. And Africa also. So this was the real Aryan invasion or Aryan migration. We never invaded. We migrated and we assimilated wherever we went. So that's the thing. So there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever of Aryan invasion, migration. Now ये लोग क्या कहते हैं Tony Joseph लोग कि there were many small tiny waves of migrations. Not one migration. छोटे-छोटे migration होते रहे. Tourism essentially. उसका भी evidence दिखाओ भाई.
You'd be surprised. There's some very eminent scientists. I'll give you an example of a Pakistani scientist, eminent scientist. I like him otherwise. Parvez Oudboy. If you listen to him a couple of times, he tries to be very rational.
Oh yeah. But when it comes to Hinduism,
But completely sold out to the Aryan invasion theory.
yes.
Closed mind. Doesn't want to listen. Doesn't want to argue with anyone.
Is he
Doesn't
Parsi?
want to present. No.
Is a Muslim? Okay.
Almost.
Okay.
So you see these closed minds even in India. Tony Joseph is one example. He can go to any extent to not just peddle lies, but to invent history.
He doesn't have the guts to defend his book.
Yeah. So nobody has the guts to defend the Aryan invasion theory. 2 crores is not a small amount. Come on.
आ जाओ भाई.
हम इसको 10 करोड़ कर दे क्या?
तब भी नहीं आएंगे. तो ये
Because it is still a hypothesis. It is not a theory. Nobody has proved it scientifically. Nobody has written a paper like the way they demand a paper today. There has been no peer review even at that time. Today, if you have to publish a paper with peer review, it takes you years and years and years.
yes. Yeah.
So just Max Miller publishes some nonsense and becomes a dogma. Well, yes.
And then in all peer-reviewed papers, they take that as the input input assumption. If 1500 BC is Aryan invasion or advent of Aryans into India, उस assumption को लेकर फिर they will make new theories and they will base all their justifications on that. You will see that in peer-reviewed papers, the assumption that 1500 BC was the advent of Aryans into India. So I don't know what sort of peer review that is. Yeah, actually, yeah.
There is a spurious review.
Absolutely. How can you make that assumption? What is the foundation on the basis of that assumption that you've made? There is none. And that gets peer reviewed. It passes peer review. Ye ho raha hai.
Tony Joseph has not been peer reviewed.
No, he's not peer reviewed. He has been given the stamp of approval by David Reich.
David Wright himself is now participating in papers that are disproving his own theories.
It's actually happening. Yeah. और धीरे धीरे ईस्टवर्ड्स आ रहा है. ईस्टवर्ड्स. पहले सेंट्रल एशिया था.
पेशावर तक तो पहुंच गया.
क्या बोलते हैं? फर्ट तो कौन से गोल्डन आर्क के कुछ तो बोलते. Southern arc. So maybe most likely
Southern Arc also, and then that Northwest Frontier also. दोनों जो है वो.
धीरे धीरे the origin of the
Part of this new paper which is on the anvil. I think he's part of that also.
We'll see. David Reich typically has his fingers in all the pies in the world. उसका नाम का हर जगह it crops up.
Only because he had a fine DNA lab.
Because he has established a massive DNA lab, a very well-funded DNA lab. And all students in this field that typically come from his lab also have some association, so they have to be in his good books. And then there is the Max Planck Institute in Germany also, which is also tied with the David Reich lab and all that. ये सब अंदर अंदर की बात है इन लोगों के लिए. So they all have the same world view. They all, support each other and so on. That's how it is. लेकिन they all make the assumption that you can correlate genetics with language and religion, which is such an incredible, ridiculous argument. Because if let's say an Indian person converts to Christianity tomorrow, that DNA won't change, right? I mean, how can you tell a person's language and religion from their DNA? But they are trying to correlate that with language, with the migration of languages and culture.
DNA of Pakistani is the same as Indian,
It's the same DNA.
but they don't speak any Indian language.
And they don't have the Indian culture.
They speak a different brand of Urdu, which is Persianized Urdu that they speak.
Yeah.
Even the Indians in the Indian Muslims, they don't speak that language. And certainly no Hindu speaks that language. Their DNA is probably the same.
Once again, another example is Turkey. The DNA is Greek DNA and Anatolian DNA, maybe Armenian DNA, but the culture is Turkic. The religion is Islam. The language is a Turkic language. So what's the correlation between DNA and your culture and language and religion? Nothing. But still, when it comes to the Aryan invasion, migration, tourism thing, they try to correlate. They always insist on correlating DNA with religion and language. And then there's the R1A thing. R1A is the Aryan gene, apparently. It's not a gene, it's a haplogroup. It's a bloodline. It's a vansha.
अब बात करते हैं जेनेटिक्स की, जो आजकल का फ्लेवर है, वेरी वेरी इन दीज डेज. तो ये जो जेनेटिक्स वाला जो मामला है, ये कब शुरू हुआ, क्यों शुरू हुआ, अब क्या चल रहा है, क्योंकि इसमें अप्स एंड डाउन्स होते रहते हैं, कई अलग अलग तरह के फाइंडिंग्स आते रहते हैं. इसमें मदर साइड का आता रहता है, फादर साइड का आता रहता है. तो ये थोड़ा सा ऐसे बताइए जिससे कि आम हमारे जो ऑडियंस है उसको भी समझ में आ जाए.
जी, तो हम जानते हैं कि हमारे बॉडीज़ में डीएनए होता है, और डीएनए एक बहुत ही यूनिक मॉलिक्यूल है जो आपका डीएनए ऑलमोस्ट किसी से मैच नहीं होगा. एवरीबॉडी हैज यूनिक डीएनए, इट्स लाइक अ फिंगरप्रिंट. तो 21वीं शताब्दी की शुरुआत में ह्यूमन जीनोम को हमने पूरा मैप कर दिया, और फिर टेक्नोलॉजी आने लगी जिससे हम जेनेटिक रिसर्च कर सकें. और उससे क्या हुआ कि वी वर एबल टू स्टार्ट ट्रेसिंग आउट पीपल्स जेनेटिक लीनिएजेस. तो उसमें कंसेप्ट आता है हैप्लोग्रुप का. तो हैप्लोग्रुप क्या होता है? इट इज़ अ लीनिएज, एक वंश होता है. और दो प्रकार के हैप्लोग्रुप होते हैं, मैट्रिलिनियल एंड पैट्रिलिनियल. तो पैट्रिलिनियल हैप्लोग्रुप जो है वो वाई क्रोमोसोम के ऊपर से आता है, और जो मैट्रिलिनियल हैप्लोग्रुप से वो माइटोकॉन्ड्रियल डीएनए से आते हैं. So matrilineal haplogroups are passed down from mother to children, but only transmitted through the females. Or patrilineal haplogroups are transmitted through father to son. So a haplogroup is an extended family which carries a specific mutation, genetic mutation, which happened at some point in the past. कुछ haplogroups ऐसे होते हैं कि the mutation originated maybe 2000 years ago. कुछ होते हैं कि जिनका म्यूटेशन ओरिजिनेट हुआ 5000 वर्ष से पहले, आज से. कुछ होते हैं जो 20-30 हज़ार वर्ष पुराने म्यूटेशन से, बट दे ऑल स्टार्ट विथ अ सिंगल इंडिविजुअल. तो ये होता है एक हैप्लोग्रुप. तो आज एक बहुत बड़ा हैप्लोग्रुप है, एक्सटेंडेड फैमिली है, जिसका नाम है R1A1A और RM17, दो उसके नाम है. दिस इज एन एक्सटेंडेड फैमिली ऑफ पीपल जिनका they all carry a single mutation, Y chromosome mutation, which originated with one single person, one single man, maybe 15, maybe 20, maybe 25,000 years ago. Exactly हमने अब तक pinpoint नहीं किया है, but most likely that mutation and that individual, the first founder, was Indian, most likely. तो इसके ऊपर आजकल बहुत controversy चल रही है, because the number of members of this haplogroup is most likely more than 1 billion.
1 billion?
Most likely more than 1 billion. They are spread, there are 2 areas of geography.
Almost 1/8 of the entire world population.
Yes. So there are two geographical areas where you have a high concentration of R1A1A. One is the Indian subcontinent, दूसरा is Eastern Europe.
अच्छा.
So Eastern Europe is supposedly one of the original homelands, hypothetical homelands of the Aryans.
आर्यन होमलैंड थ्योरी जो है वो वही बताती है.
हाँ, तो अब प्रश्न ये उठता है कि ये इसका एक्चुअल ओरिजिन कहाँ पर है. तो जेनेटिक्स में क्लियर कट रूल है एसेंशियली कि जिस ज्योग्राफिकल रीजन में एक हैप्लोग्रुप के सब हैप्लोग्रुप्स का सबसे अधिक डाइवर्सिटी पाया जाता है, वहां पर वो ओरिजिनेट हुआ. एंड मोस्ट लाइकली इज गोइंग टू बी इंडिया. सो अभी तक रिसर्च चल रहा है, रिसर्च इज गोइंग ऑनगोइंग.
Why do you say most likely it is going to be India?
Because India has the highest diversity of R1A1A and सब हैप्लोग्रुप्स. देखिए, अगर एक जगह पर कोई म्यूटेशन ओरिजिनेट हुआ है तो वहाँ पर पॉपुलेशन जो है वो सबसे ज़्यादा समय तक वहाँ पे रही है, और वहाँ पर फिर ऑब्वियसली सब म्यूटेशंस होंगे. That is just how it works in genetics. Mutations happen on a regular basis at a certain frequency. So wherever the mutation first originated, you will have more submutations, means child haplogroups of that original haplogroup. And you will find the most highest frequency of that and highest diversity of R1A1A in India. But ये मैं कह रहा हूँ, but it is not yet completely proven, not yet published. Research चालू है. नीरज राय जी, गणेश्वर चौबे जी इस पर रिसर्च कर रहे हैं. And as we know, most likely by the end of this year, and maybe before that, we will have a published paper or at least a preprint, जिस पर सब साफ हो जाएगा, दूध का दूध पानी का पानी हो जाएगा कि भाई R1A1A इंडिया में ओरिजिनेट हुआ. मोस्ट लाइकली RB जो उसका पेरेंट हैप्लोग्रुप है वो भी मोस्ट लाइकली इंडिया में ओरिजिनेट हुआ होगा. एंड दूसरी बात है कि जो आउट ऑफ अफ्रीका माइग्रेशन हुआ था कुछ 70 और 4,000 ईयर्स पहले, उसमें ओरिजिनल फाउंडर जोन था भारत, कि जो माइग्रेट्स थे आउट ऑफ अफ्रीका वो ईस्टवर्ड्स पहले आए एंड दे फर्स्ट सेटल डाउन प्रॉपरली इन इंडिया, और फिर भारत से हर जगह अलग अलग जगह पे माइग्रेशन हुआ. एंड हाउ डू वी नो दिस? जेनेटिक्स. एक हैप्लोग्रुप है, मेल हैप्लोग्रुप, जिसे कहते हैं हैप्लोग्रुप F. It is the ancestor of more than 90% of all non-African males living today. It originated in India about 60,000 years ago. And the oldest non-African female haplogroups are M and M, which also originated in India some 65-70,000 years ago. So India is the original founder zone of the out of Africa migration. ये थोड़ा पुराना हिस्ट्री हो गया, but that is how genetics works. So R1A1A की बात करते हैं तो most likely 99% it's going to be proven that it originated in India itself, और इंडिया में से ये स्प्रेड हुआ दुनिया भर में. More than 1 million members today.
1 billion.
1 billion. And many of them live in Europe, and many of them are what we would call the white people, white race, right? But they are all related to each other, including Indians. And you will find, दूसरी बात क्या आती है कि भाई इंडिया में कास्ट सिस्टम है और इन्वेजन हुआ है. So why do we find such incredibly high frequencies of R1A1A in tribal people, in southern India, in Tamil Nadu, in the people who speak Telugu, in people who speak Malayalam? You even find significant percentage of R1A1A in Manipur. So ये जो it tells you that this is an indigenous haplogroup. It has nothing to do with north versus south divide. It has nothing to do with Aryan versus Dravidian. It has nothing to do with the linguistic divide or the so-called high caste low caste divide. सब में पाया जाता है ये, सब में पाया जाता है. इतना पुराना है ये. And it's an Indian, most likely going to be proven by the end of this year that it's an Indian haplogroup, Indian origin haplogroup. So that tells you कि अगर Aryan invasion हुआ है तो it came out of India and went westwards, not the other way around.
पर्शियन जीन क्या है?
अगर आज हम पर्शिया में देखेंगे हैप्लोग्रुप्स तो यू विल फाइंड मोर ऑफ R1B परहैप्स और R2. मुझे एग्जैक्टली याद नहीं, बट R1A का फ्रीक्वेंसी कुछ 10% के आसपास है. ये अजीब बात है बिकॉज पर्शिया इज यू कुड से सिस्टर सिविलाइजेशन और डॉटर सिविलाइजेशन ऑफ इंडिया, और उसका हिस्ट्री है कुछ. जब पर्शिया came under Turkic occupation in the past 300-400 years, they brought in lots of people from the Caucasus region, etc., and settled them in Iran. So आज बहुत सारे ईरानियन जो लोग होते हैं, they will have blonde hair and blue eyes, Those are not the real Iranians. Those are imports from the Caucasus region. Original Persians कौन थे? हमारे ही लोग थे.
वो जो एक हाइटेस्पेस जो उनका एक बड़ा हीरो है,
विश्तस्प.
वो विश्तस्पा, हमारे ऋग्वेद का विश्तस्पा है.
हो सकता है. It is possible. We're not sure correlation exactly है कि नहीं, but it is
Late ऋग्वेद, क्योंकि ऋग्वेद also has been written over a period of thousands of years. वो कोई एक अकेला नहीं है. वैसे आप I don't know whether you read Thalagiri. He has given the origin of almost all the hymns.
हाँ.
ये किस ऋषि ने क्या लिखा, कैसे लिखा,
He's done an incredibly detailed analysis of everything.
वो पूरा उन्होंने दिया हुआ है.
Yes.
ये ब्राह्मणिकल जीन क्या है?
ये क्या होता है? I've never. There is no such thing as a Brahminical gene.
ब्राह्मणिकल जीन, क्योंकि मैं नीरज राय जी से बात कर रहा था, वो कह रहे थे कि R1A जो है इसको ब्राह्मणिकल जीन कहते हैं.
कहते हैं लेकिन है नहीं. इसको ऐसे पोर्ट्रे किया गया
ये
है.
उधर से पोर्ट्रे किया गया.
ये नैरेटिव बनाया गया है to demonize the Brahmins. They hate Brahmins because Brahmins जो ब्राह्मण थे हमारे और है, they historically kept our knowledge and civilization alive, Vidya, and that's why they hate them. If you preserve the knowledge and the Vidya, you will be hated because they want to destroy the knowledge and Vidya, without which there is no Sanatana Dharma, there is no Hinduism.
Yes, one of the reasons why Indian civilization has survived is because the knowledge was kept intact. Our scriptures, our granthas, they were kept intact through oral tradition. Can you imagine? What a Herculean task.
Because all of our libraries were destroyed and burned down, we had to keep it alive through memorization.
And they did that.
And oral tradition.
That was done by these so-called much despised Brahmins.
Herculean task. And they kept it alive despite all the odds. And we demonize them today.
We demonize them for nothing because they were not even they were not even allowed to accumulate wealth.
They had no power, they had no wealth.
No power.
How did they oppress people if they had no power? Bhai? Did they have a standing army to order around? They had nothing. Their only job was to preserve knowledge and transmit knowledge. उतना ही था उनका role. Advisory role सब था. Okay, there can be some elements of power if you want to take it that way, but they had no actual temper.
They were respected because of their sacrifices.
Yes. So we have totally misinterpreted our past. We have allowed outsiders and our enemies to decide what our past was and to create the narratives that we are now taught in schools. And that's why people think about Brahman bade evil the, ye tha, wo tha. It's all nonsense. It is all stories and narratives created by outsiders and enemies of India.
And till date, not one instance has been given from the past of any Brahmin oppressing any lower caste person.
Show me the evidence. दिखाइए evidence.
Because they didn't have power, simple as that.
Yes. It was very clear that the Kshatriyas had power.
Kshatriyas had power.
Yes, the warriors, the warrior class, they had power.
So some people, they purvey the narrative or peddle the narrative that these people, these cunning Brahmins, they had a lot of power over the Kshatriyas and they made Kshatriyas do this.
Man. I mean, how ridiculous does it sound?
As if they had no other job. They were fully overtaken by the restrictions that they had to follow. If you look at Manusmriti, the first chapter, and if you look at the restrictions that a Brahmin has to endure, I can guarantee you, even if you give every kind of incentives, nobody would go through that near torture, I would say. And people used to practice that willingly.
Yes. Yes.
And from generations to generation.
Yes.
That is the beauty of this Sanatana Dharma. And today you have somebody coming across and saying that Sanatana Dharma is purely evil and it needs to be destroyed because it preaches inequality.
There is no equality in the world, first of all. Equality is a myth. There is no such thing as equality. Some people are born tall, some people are born short, some people are born more intelligent, some people are born less intelligent. Look at the animal kingdom. Is there equality in the animal kingdom? Look at the entire history of humanity, whatever is known. Has there ever been equality anywhere? The nature of the universe is that there is inequality. Everybody is different. Everybody has some strengths and some weaknesses. Everybody should be given the same opportunities, of course, but you can't expect the same results from everybody. There is no equality in the world. And in any functioning society, there's going to be division of labor. People will organize themselves. If you have look at the military, there is hierarchy, there is division of labor. You can't expect a grunt guy whose job is to fire bullets to do the strategic job that a general does. In any corporation, you're going to have a hierarchy without which the corporation collapses and your business is going to be destroyed. That's the nature of any well-functioning society. You're going to have division of labor. You're going to have hierarchy. That is what you see in every society in the world. But only India is demonized. Because we are the oldest, and that's why we have a long tradition of organizing ourselves in specific ways. And they say that the so-called higher castes have been oppressing the so-called lower castes. Show us the evidence historically where this happened. Kuch nahi hai.
There's not been a single rebellion in
Their
the
evidence-
Indian society. There's not been a single rebellion in the Indian society.
Yeah. Their evidence is what the British missionaries wrote, the European missionaries wrote. That is their evidence. The enemies come here, they write stories about our history, and then that is taken as evidence. That's just the way things have been done. It's high time we correct all this. Seriously.
They won't correct it.
They won't correct, we have to do it.
Correct it themselves.
Yeah.
And what do you think about this Stalin Putra going on this tangent and vilifying the entire Sanatana Dharma? And of course, he is a follower of Periyar, I guess, because the Dravidianism, that entire Dravidian script is heavily inspired by people like Periyar.
Look, I'm not surprised. This obviously is disappointing. It is condemnable, but it's not surprising. This is the natural outcome of the Aryan invasion theory and the narratives that have been peddled, especially in southern India, where the entire narrative is that we have been oppressed for these many thousand years. So vote us into power and we will save you all. We will liberate you all. And how do we liberate? By espousing soft separatism and anti-Hinduism and all that. So that's the narrative that's been going on for decades after independence. So this is the natural logical outcome of that. So I'm not surprised. But we have to, if we want to correct this, we have to start with the education system. We have to start with the bureaucracy, the IAS, all that. And we have to start making tangible changes. Maybe now? Maybe now would not be a bad time to start that.
Yes, I think the beginnings have been made.
Beginnings have been made.
I think the first time a clear-cut discussion took place on the Aryan invasion theory was when David Frawley and you did a dialogue here on the platform of the Jaipur Dialogues.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. That was the first time I came in a public appearance. Thanks to you, sir.
And yes, viewers, that offer is still open. We never closed that offer. The Aryan invasion hypothesis or even migration hypothesis, come and prove it. It's 2 crore 10 lakhs. I am increasing it to 2 crore 25 today. चलो 15 लाख और ले जाओ. Prove तो करो. वो hypothesis prove करो on the same standards on which these people review or peer review a scientific paper.
Absolutely.
I think that would be a good incentive for anybody to do.
Totally. It's a significant sum of money. Aa jao bhai. It's yours for grabs. See, without the foundation of proper of science, the Aryan invasion, migration, tourism, picnic theory is of the same caliber as the flat earth theory or the theory of Noah's Ark. Absolute nonsense, absolute joke. So that is where the Aryan invasion theory actually is. But that's the kind of narrative we have been peddling since the 19th century. That's what our education system has done to our people. Generation after generation after generation of Indians have been brainwashed into believing this. And that's why they believe certain things. I don't blame them for believing it. I don't hate them for believing it. But we have to correct this because this is all lies.
What about another aspect of this? Because this is probably also an offshoot that we have not been able to tell our own history of science. Though, of course, a lot has been talked about our history of philosophy, and a lot of people have taken our history of philosophy, but our own history of science and mathematics has not been told even to our own people.
Yes, it has not been done because they have deliberately suppressed this. There is enough evidence from external sources, for example, Kitab al-Hizab al-Hind, and so on. See, all these al-Birudis and all that, they are, in the West, they are portrayed as great polymaths who knew astronomy, who knew pharmacology, who knew toxicology, who knew grammar, who knew mathematics. They knew everything, apparently. The fact is that these people came to India with the first Turkic or whatever invaders of India. They accessed our libraries, they took out whatever was of interest to them, whatever they could understand in the little brains, and they translated everything from Sanskrit into Persian or Arabic. And eventually this was transmitted into Europe. So that's why they call it Arabic numerals and all that. But all of this knowledge came from India. The Persians knew about this, the Arabs also knew about this. That this knowledge
Why
is
is that this Al-Khwarizmi, who wrote this Kitab al-Hind, and he used to head that particular Arab house of wisdom, Dar al-Hikmat. So Dar al-Hikmat, he used to head that, but he called it Kitab al-Hind.
They were very clear, yeah.
He credited India for
Yes,
that.
yes.
But when that knowledge went westwards further, and it went via Spain, they removed that Hind part from it.
Actually, even Fibonacci and people like that, they said numero, indoromo, whatever. They also initially did credit India. But after the Europeans started conquering India, they were forced to obviously justify their conquest by saying Indians are primitive and barbaric and all that. So that's when they started denying this. And of course, the Jesuits, they're a whole different story. They are a class of Catholic priests whose entire raison d'etre, the reason for existing, is to go to various countries and steal the knowledge and then digest it into the Western knowledge systems. So many of them came to India. They took out astronomical data, copious amounts of astronomical data, transmitted it to the West, and that's how Kepler's laws of planetary motion came about, with Indian astronomical data.
Without any acknowledgement?
Absolutely no acknowledgement. And there's much more. There's so much more. So I'm sure that today many Indian scholars have started writing about this. Many books.
The Infinite series?
In fact, it's so much trigonometry, sines and cosines, like you said, infinite series, algebra, so much. All of this came out of India. Calculus itself, I mean, the foundations of calculus came out of India at least a century before Newton and Leibniz. Both apparently independently discovered it in the same year. ऐसा कैसे होता है भाई? एक जर्मनी में बैठा है, एक इंग्लैंड में बैठा है. For thousands of years, nobody knew calculus. Suddenly, in the same year, both of them came up with calculus. And then they fight each other. I did it first. How does that happen? Clearly, there was some external source of knowledge that both acquired, and they both rushed to publish it, and then they fought over who published it first. All this came from India. I'm not saying Newton was not a genius. Obviously, he was a genius. He was. No one can deny that. But calculus is Indian. It's not Newton or Leibniz. So
Dr. C.K. Raju says that even these people, they did not understand calculus, and he proves that they made mistakes in understanding calculus.
Okay.
And that he corroborates by saying that, okay, anybody who steals knowledge will not know the exact knowledge, and therefore he will commit mistakes. And he points out mistakes that Newton committed, and hence proves that calculus was stolen.
Okay. So look, most of the
And
knowledge,
even if you look at those other ones, like what is known as the Pythagoras theorem,
that was known to India long before them. Even the Babylonians knew the Pythagoras
there in the both the Shilva Sutras,
Sulba Sutras, right? Yeah.
not in the Bodha and Chol Sutras, but Manava Shilva Sutras, that it is known that. And
this
they
knowledge
used
is
to
known.
use what is called strings to measure things, and this whole thing fetish about what is called formal maths, where you require a priori assumptions. That with that, only with that you can prove certain things, whereas our mathematics was actually for practical use. And that is how it has proceeded. That is why they did not know negative numbers right till, I think, 18th, 19th century.
Right. So look, it's clear that India was the inventor of much of the math that we use today. afterwards they have built upon that foundation and taken it forward, because our universities were destroyed, our knowledge systems were destroyed, our entire schools of mathematics were destroyed. So we could not continue it forward. So they took it forward and all that, but the foundation is Indian mathematics, Indian science, Indian astronomy as well. And that has been denied for so long. I'm glad that now Indian scholars are writing about this, and some books have come out, etc. Dr. C.K. Raju himself has done incredible work about this. So I'm glad that the knowledge is now finally coming out.
And what should be done to carry it forward?
We need, see, what's happening right now is that individual researchers and scholars are doing it on their own, without any incentive, without any help from the government, or without any ecosystem to back them up. What we should do is at least have one university or one institute in which you study the history of Indian science. And overall, it can be part of Indian overall study of Indian history also. So we need to set up our own institutions. We need to have our own journals in which these results and these discoveries are published, instead of having to go to foreign journals and publishing it there. So I think it's a low-hanging fruit for the Indian government to start. I've also said that we should have a global yoga standards institute. I mean, right now the whole world is stealing yoga and twisting it into God knows what forms. We should have a World Yoga Standards Institute in India. And that institute should decide what is yoga, what is not. I mean, in China, the Shaolin Temple decides what is Kung Fu and what is not. Why can't we have something like that for yoga in India? So that we stop the world from distorting and appropriating and stealing our cultural heritage. So I think this is something the government can set up easily. It doesn't take a whole lot of money from a government perspective. It won't take thousands of crores, maybe 100 crores or so, maybe whatever it is. It's low-hanging fruit that we really should start plucking.
अभी जो न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी आई है उसमें इंडियन नॉलेज सिस्टम के ऊपर काफ़ी एम्फेसिस है.
Okay.
और AICTE जो कि टेक्निकल एजुकेशन को सुपरवाइज करती है, IITs, IIMs, engineering colleges, management institutes, other specialized institutes, professional institutes. That is the remit of AICTE.
Okay.
And they have set up IKS, Indian Knowledge System cell. And the Indian knowledge system is now being advocated to be included in the syllabus. And minimum 3 credits and during their engineering, minimum 3, maximum 8. So 3 to 8 credits they can take in Indian knowledge system.
Okay. So could you specify which knowledge systems are there?
So Indian knowledge systems, a lot of Indian spiritual systems, Indian mathematics, Indian science, and we have a whole aspect, Indian Shilp.
Okay.
Indian Shilp. Even, of course, spiritual systems, yoga and all comes
all that you have.
into spiritual system.
Okay.
So all facets of knowledge, Indian knowledge system.
Okay. So at least 3 credits are required.
So 3 credits in a
Minimum.
4-year course, 3 credits minimum, and 8 maximum.
Excellent.
So, and I'm told, I don't have a research data to back it up, but I'm told that there is a huge interest among students for these credits.
That's so good to hear.
So you think that is the way to go?
It's absolutely the way to go. We have to be rooted in our culture. I'm not saying that, look, obviously if you're an engineer, you're going to study science, you're going to study mechanics and all that, and so on. But you have to have some grounding, some connection with your culture. I think India is the only culture, only nation in the world which doesn't teach its history, its culture in school. If you look at European schools and education systems, they teach
That is because we are told Mughals brought us culture.
That's one of the... But
Before that, we didn't have culture.
Yeah, so that's another thing. That's the attitude that's
They
prevailing.
brought biryani from a land
Which doesn't produce rice.
which doesn't produce rice.
That's the kind of joke that has been foisted upon us for decades. It's high time we break the shackles. So, India is the only land where kids are not taught anything about their own culture, their own heritage, the heritage of their ancestors. So I'm glad this NEP, new education policy, is beginning to bring this into its ambit. It will really help connect our
Earlier,
kids.
they used to make humanities compulsory. Now, instead of humanities, you can take the IKS.
I would love to see the faces of these of the eminent historians and all that when they came to know about this. Some heartburn, they deserve it. So it's great. I'm really happy to hear this. Yeah.
So with that, I think time to conclude.
All right.
यहीं पर अब हम आपसे चर्चा समाप्त करेंगे। और आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
आपका धन्यवाद।
दर्शकों को भी बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। जय हिंद, जय भारत, वंदे मातरम।
जय हिंद, जय भारत, वंदे मातरम।